Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community was B-Class Classic Cars on Forza 5, and we start at the Yas Marina full circuit. The first corner here can be a little bit tricky. There was a little bit of a bump between an Alpha and a Datsun. However, everybody got around it fairly well. The next couple of corners are very fast. Can be a little bit scary in some of the more slidey of vehicles. Again, it was fairly clean on this opening lap as we run up towards the chicane for the first time. The Ferrari we're following was having a little bit of a look at the very fast Camaro. In front of it there was an Alpha that completely outbraked himself and ended up somewhere in the runoff area. In the background I had a bit of a bump. I do apologise with whoever's car it was that I clattered into the side of. As we come on to the very long back straight, this is where the top speed matters. Yas Marina can be a bit of a tricky track to build a car for, this one. There are two mighty long straights, but there are some very fast corners as well to deal with that require quite a lot of grip. And so yeah, actually building a car for this track is a challenge on this back straight. The Ferrari had the straight line speed, the Jag had the brakes and the handling to get around the first part of the corner. The Ferrari tries to come back at him though as they head on towards the next straight. Further behind these two there was another drag race going on. Of course, opening laps are always going to be the most eventful on any race, and as we charge down the next straight, the pair of these guys were catching the Mustang in front. Not quite a long enough straight for them. The Ferrari squirming a little bit under braking. The Jaguar's got the inside. It has a little bit of a slide on the exit of the corner. There's a Camaro that's come from nowhere, got an awful long way on two wheels. There's a Firebird in the background that's sort of slid off the road. Yeah, not sure where the Camaro came from, but has so much grip it just drove past the Ferrari as if it wasn't there, and then they carry on to the next rather scarily fast corner. In all of that, my car had got a bit broken. I'm not entirely sure at what point. Somebody clattered into the back of me, and I had got broken aero, which meant I had even less straight line speed than I did originally. But the most significant thing is I had broken suspension. On Forza 4 you have broken suspension, it doesn't really matter. On here, it does. My car does a weird bounce that I had no idea. The camera doesn't quite show it very well there, but broken suspension makes a big difference on Forza 5. I get a nasty bounce going on there, and I just wasn't expecting it. Couldn't react in time, and my car got flung into a wall. Yeah, you really don't want suspension damage. It ruins the handling of your vehicle. It's not really surprising, it's suspension damage after all. A little bit later on, the most exciting battles going on was in the midfield, really. This is for fourth and back, I think, between all of these cars. Slightly flying, but don't worry, ignore the flying Cougar. It's not that important. Come down the back straight again. The drag race is going on. The Mercury is the slowest of these four in a straight line. The Firebird, I think, is probably the fastest. The two cars in front, not sure quite what went on there as to why the Jaguar ended up facing the wrong way. The Firebird is all over the back of the Cougar, trying to find a way past. As you come on to the next straight, if you are lacking in straight line speed, there's a little bit more jumpy cars going on. Don't worry, sort itself out. Yeah, if you're lacking in straight line speed, this can be a pretty tough track to drive around. It's very hard to defend when you've got such long straights like this. The Firebird gets himself to the inside. However, the Pontiac has not quite got the brakes. Can't quite get far enough alongside the Cougar this time round. And the Mercury holds on to the position. And all the meanwhile, these guys were catching the Mustang that was in third place. A lap later, and this was by far the most. I think these are the only cars that were even close, remotely close, on track at once. It was a really rather spread out race. The Mercury goes for a very brave overtake. That's a scary place to try and get past. Scary just going too wide through there. Ferrari does well to hold it on the outside as they come into the chicane. The Ferrari's on the inside for the first bit, the Cougar's got the inside for the next bit, but the Ferrari then will have the inside for the hairpin if he's close enough, which he isn't really. Locks his brakes up trying to get it stopped. A little bit of a bump going on, and the Cougar gets the best drive out of the corner of the three of them, but as we saw last time, the Mercury just doesn't have the straight line speed, so as they come along the back straight, the Ferrari cruises up to the back of him. The Firebird is coming as well. The Ferrari can get to the inside, and there's very little the Cougar can do about it. He's got to hope that his brakes are better than that of the Ferraris, but the Ferrari's so far past him by the time they get to the braking zone. The Mercury can't really do anything about it. The Firebird takes a very tight line through the first part of, I don't even know what you would call that corner, nasty corners, but he gets a very good run onto the exit. The Ferrari, you can see the gap the Ferrari's made up already coming onto this back straight is huge. The Firebird's up alongside the Mercury as well, and by the time they've reached the braking zone, the Firebird is past, and this time is far enough ahead not to have the Cougar outbraking. The Cougar tries, but can't really do too much about it. Meanwhile, all of that had been going on at the front. The Lamborghini had started on pole and driven away from the field. However, by the final lap, the Camaro, who had scrapped his way from quite low down on the grid, was right behind him as they run into the final few corners. Problem is, these last few corners are not really overtaking opportunities. The only sort of two really good overtaking opportunities at the end of the really long straights, and the Camaro just wasn't close enough sort of on those corners, and now he is right behind the Lamborghini. He can't really do very much around these final corners. There's not massive braking zones, they're quite fast corners, and the Camaro is just that little bit too far back. If he gets a good run out of this final corner, he might be able to outdrag the Lamborghini to the line, but the Lamborghini is far enough ahead as they cross the line to take victory. Wasn't the most exciting race, I will be honest. Here at Yas Marina. Further back there was to be a change of third position as well. On the final lap, the Firebird, having cleared the Cougar, didn't take long before he cleared the Ferrari, and by the very final lap had caught up to the back of the Mustang. The Mustang was another muscle car that struggled a little bit with the straight line speed, and as they run down the second of the long straights. The Firebird's on the inside. The Mustang tried to stay around the outside, tried to brake as late as he could, but outbraked himself just a little bit, and that was enough to allow the Firebird past. Firebird nearly throws it away on the next corner, runs a little bit wide, just gets back on road in time to get to the corner before the Mustang can get past. As I said, not the most exciting of races that we have that we have had in Versus the Community. We move on to the second race, which was at Bathurst. The game was determined every single time I've done one of these with the grid on random. My car unfortunately starts in last. So yeah, I was at a rather large disadvantage on this one. I decided to follow an escort through the first few corners. This is where the lack of straight line speed for my little Renault did struggle up in front. Mustang didn't realise where a Lamborghini was. The Lamborghini does a wheelie. Yeah, there's a little bit of avoidance going on. The Lamborghini actually made places out of that, which is quite impressive, despite the wheelie and the off-grass action. A Ferrari unfortunately got turned around in the second corner. Thankfully, he waited and let us all go past. I was still pretty happy following the escort as we run through the next corners. The pair of us trying to sweep around the outside of a few unsuspecting cars, and it was working pretty well. My Renault, being four-wheel drive, had quite a lot of grip, had an awful lot of traction. I managed to squeeze through a gap there alongside a Nissan that I didn't think would exist for very long. The Escort was right on the back of a GT40 and does an incredibly brave move around the outside of a very fast corner. I wouldn't have done that move. I would have backed out of that one. It's very rare you go around the outside of a car there. I think half the field traded paints with that wall on the opening lap. My Renault's out sideways. There was a Datsun off on the sand trap through whatever corner number that is. It was all a very eventful opening lap for me and the Escort, so I tried to carve our way through the field as we run down the hill there. The GT40 got a big slide on in the background. I proceeded to make my way through the field, and by the next lap I was up the inside of a Mustang as we ran into the second turn. The Renault, without broken suspension, was actually quite a good car. It did lack the straight line speed, but because it was four-wheel drive converted, it had so much grip out of these corners. It could put the power down a lot easier than the muscle cars. Again, through this next corner, you'll see the muscle cars sliding. I can boot it. Normally, there's not a gap there, but the Renault can just find the gap and can make up the position as we run through these next corners, whereas the other cars just simply don't have the grip. Four-wheel drive can certainly be a bit of an advantage on Forza 5. This wall, I'm pretty sure at some point has paint from every single car that raced around here. Very, very easy to run. A little bit wide through that one. a little bit later on, and another Renault 5 caught up to the back of the Stingray, but didn't have quite as much luck trying to get past it. Again, this was not the most exciting of races. This field was pretty damn spread out after the first. I think the closest two cars on track was the Stingray and this Renault 5, and that was about it. Yeah, it really wasn't the most exciting of races, this one. Either the Renault 5 just outbraked itself into turn 2 and the Mini would fly past. The Mini was absolutely ballistically fast in a straight line, pretty damn good through the corners. Unfortunately got tangled in a couple of incidences around the track. But yeah, the original Mini is a pretty damn quick car on here. Little bit uncontrollable though. Its tiny wheelbase can be a little bit of a problem. Our leader though had got to the front and vanished up the road. Wasn't massively far. You can just about see second place in the background. There's a Lamborghini Miura somewhere. Kept him fairly honest, but they never really looked like being a change for the lead. There you go. The Lamborghini is just about in the background. But yeah, BMW didn't make any silly mistakes, and yeah, drove a very clean race. And these two were setting pretty damn similar lap times. I would end up in 4th. I think a Mustang managed to retain 3rd position, and then the AI forget where the track goes. There, the BMW's gone. The Lamborghini runs very wide as well, but it made the corner. Move on to our 3rd and final race at the Long Beach circuit. The Datsun absolutely flies off the line. That thing must be 4-wheel drive, because that's a really rather fast. That's faster launching than my blooming Renault. That was yeah, a really rather quick launch. There's an El Camino that also got a very quick launch as we run in towards the first quarter. I was worried about the first quarter being utter mayhem here. It's a fairly nasty and tight quarter. We all got round it though pretty damn cleanly. There was a little bit of bumping further back as we ran into the sort of the roundabout section, but again we all got away relatively cleanly. The Firebird does a very brave overtake, go around the outside of a Ferrari, and then the El Camino just is one of those sort of slightly annoying Forza incidences where the front of the car gets caught on the back of the car in front, and neither car can actually do anything about it, and the Ferrari ended up sort of going slightly wide. However, apart from that, the rest of the field had got around on the opening lap. I was the 2nd highest placed non-muscle car. I think I was in about 6th or 7th on this opening stage. Mini was absolutely flying yet again and soared past my poor Renault in a straight line. I really did not have the most straight line speed. However, this track is not as reliant on straight line speed. I did have a bit of a scare coming into the next corner, locked my rear brakes, had a big slide, knew I couldn't get it stopped, or thought I couldn't get it stopped. Thank you to the Mercury for giving me enough room there, as yeah, I could not do anything about that. I run side by side with the Mini around the final corner, and that is the downside of running a car with a short wheelbase. The Mini takes the tiniest of snags and you have a problem. The same could be said for the Renault 5 as well. I am a little bit better off in this car. It's a little bit longer than the Mini. Yeah, the Mini, it just takes the smallest of tags for the Mini to have a monumental problem. A couple of laps later, and the Firebird ran a little bit wide into the first quarter, and I'm now right behind him. Now you will see the advantage of the 4-wheel drive of the Renault, and I could just do that. I do not have a particularly powerful car, but that's the amount of grip, the amount of traction that my vehicle does have. I can just soar past the Firebird on the exit of that corner. The Firebird was going to be in trouble as well from the Mini. The muscle cars did struggle a little bit more around this track. Not surprising, really. This is a much tighter, much twistier circuit than the previous two. Mini just swoops around the outside of the Firebird. It just has so much more grip than that car. And then the Mini has got an awful lot of straight line speed, can accelerate away from the muscle cars. I continued my march through the field, catching up to the back of 2nd. The Mini was coming with me as well. As we round the corner, you can just see the Charger doesn't have the grip, whereas I do. Fire up the inside of the hairpin. Can't quite get my car turned. There's a big slide from the Charger as I floor it away down the sort of the start-finish straight. However, I was not feeling particularly safe. As I said, I just no straight line speed in my Renault, and as we run down towards the first quarter, I was concerned about the speed of the muscle cars behind me. You can see, despite a terrible run off that corner, the Charger was right behind me as we approach the first corner. Luckily, I've got good enough brakes. I can brake late enough for there to not have any problems, and then I can carry a lot more speed through this section than the muscle cars can. It does help having a little car on a track like this, and the Mini, as I said, was coming with me. Wouldn't take long for him to catch up to these two vehicles, and yeah, the little cars certainly did have a bit of an advantage on this track. I was on the inside. The Charger was trying to fight back, but it couldn't really do very much about that. The Mini found itself in an odd position, being sandwiched between a Charger and two El Caminos. Pretty scary, I would imagine, in a little car like that, but again, has so much grip, could just drive right around the outside of the El Camino. The El Camino got a bit of a slide on as well, and coming up towards the next corner, the Mini was quicker than pretty much all of these cars, I think, in a straight line, and still fairly decent on the handling front. The Charger gets a big slide coming to that corner and may well have nicked the tyre wall. Mini's having a look to the inside, can't quite get it done there. The El Camino's coming back at them. The Charger goes very, very defensive, outbrakes himself into the hairpin, and the Mini gets past, and so do the two El Caminos. It can be a little bit of a tougher track to overtake around here, but we were finding plenty of places to get past. A little bit later on, and we see the Mercury Cougar was under attack by the Pontiac Firebird. The Ford GT40 was in there. GT40 was fantastically fast in a straight line. As we come into the first corner, the Mercury was just a little bit too wide. I don't think he realised the GT40 was on the inside there. Come up towards the roundabout, and it's a little bit of grass cutting going on there from the Mercury. Just about kind of gets away with it. The GT40's on the outside, but can get in front of the muscle car. The Datsun's joining in. There's an El Camino somewhere in all of the mix. There's a Charger in the background. The El Camino's trying to get at the inside of the Datsun. The GT40 ran a little bit too wide. The Mercury now finds himself leading this little train up towards the next corner. Datsun's on the inside of the GT40. The El Camino was sort of having a look around the outside of all of them, cuts back to the inside and gets an absolutely fantastic drive out of that corner. It's almost 3 wide into the next corner. Datsun has a big dive up the inside. The El Camino that goes around the outside of the pair of them and then finds himself with a much better run on the Mercury as they head towards the next corner. He's on the outside, which is a pretty scary place to be, but just has so much acceleration that he can get the position just about, gets it stopped in time, cuts in front of the Mercury. For me, that was overtaking manoeuvres of the evening there from the El Camino, making up 3 positions on the cars around him in pretty much 2 corners on the final lap. And then unfortunately, the GT40 got his car caught on that final wall. While all of that excitement was going on, at the front it had been, again, a relatively relaxed race for the leader, who had vanished off at the front in an El Camino. I wasn't expecting to say that, as we have a big celebratory slide on the final lap. Me and the Mini had been catching him towards the end, but we just ran out of laps, and the gap does look a little bit kinder than it actually was, with the El Camino doing a little bit of showboating on the final lap. Definitely the small car suited this track, which is not particularly surprising, really, considering the layout. And then the AIs derp out a little bit. This is definitely one of my favourite derp outs of the AIs. So across the finish line, and the game is taking control of our vehicles. My Renault's turning the corner. El Camino decides it doesn't like Renaults anymore. Clatters straight into the side of it, then promptly gets caught on the wall. I don't know where my car is going. My car is wandering off over. It has parked itself over there. The rest of the field is now sort of just about coming into shot. The Firebird is going to make the corner. The El Camino, one El Camino shot off. The other, the red El Camino, got killed by the Mercury. The Datsun's come to join. I don't know what the Datsun's doing. The Datsun's joining in somewhere over there. Yep, the Datsun got well and truly lost. So all 3 El Caminos were in this little area. I don't know what's going on. The Ferrari also decides not to brake and launches the El Camino. The El Camino is now on its roof. The Mercury is doing reverse celebratory donuts. It's all gone a little bit mental. We saw this before at Sebring. We had the AI go a little bit crazy. The El Camino righted itself, and then the replay ended. Yeah, I don't know what's going on at all there, but oh well. It was an alright verse, not the best verse of the community. This one, the fields were so spread out. There wasn't a huge amount of really close racing. The next FailRace versus the community shall be on the 1st of May. That's a Thursday. It shall be on Forza 4 this time round. We're going to go back to Forza 4. Forza 5 is unbelievably dodgy trying to sort out the lobbies. It really is a real nightmare trying to sort out the lobbies. Forza 4 is an awful lot easier and an awful lot better sorting out the lobbies on there, and I know a lot more people have Forza 4. So the next one shall be on Forza 4. We shall be running A-Class Nissans. For this, you can do whatever drivetrain engine swaps that you want, but yeah, we will be running A-Class Nissans. The race shall start at 7 PM British Summer Time, and if you wish to sign up, then you can on our forums. There will be a link in the description, and then you find the FailRace versus the community section, and that is where you sign up. However, that is it for today, so thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.